5G is coming to LA, and the new cell towers that are needed to accommodate that are popping up all over the city.
Yes, but what does that mean for the people who have to live right next to them? Two on your sides, Christine Lazar is here with a look at the potential risks of these towers.
And when I say right next to them, I mean literally right next to them. Now imagine waking up one day, looking out your window and seeing a cell tower just feet from your dining room.
Some people prefer an ocean view or a view of city lights or maybe the mountains. But it's safe to say that almost no one would dream of a view like this.
And I thought, my God, what is that? It looks like science fiction from the 50s or something. It's enormous.
It is an AT&T 5G-capable cell tower across the street from an elementary school and right outside John Ireland's third-floor condo in Sherman Oaks.
Regardless of whether you like 5G or 4G or whatever G you like, it's absolutely the ugliest thing in the world, and it sits right outside our dining room window. In fact, I can see it from the couch, too.
A couch John and his neighbors gathered around one afternoon as they discussed ways to get rid of the tower. The city approved the cell tower back in August. AT&T will pay the city $787 a year to lease the space on an existing light pole.
There was no advance notice whatsoever. We saw them digging, and the next thing we know, there was this giant thing on the lamppost.
John's wife is a two-time cancer survivor.
And they put this monster out there, right next to where I sit at a dining room table, right next to the chair where I watch television.
You've seen these cell towers. You'll see them all over your neighborhood. I've been working on this story for about 2 months, and I see them everywhere now. So they're coming.
Well, and you say that the standards are well within the FCC guidelines.
Yes.
I'd be more comfortable with the CDC.
Yes.
The Centers for Disease Control. Yeah.
Well, because we know sometimes how that FCC, how that works.
Sure.
Right? They don't necessarily test it themselves first before they okay it. They take it. They take the word of a company that actually tests.
G service. Now, 5G is supposed to be up to 100 times faster than current data speeds. Could have used it on Amtrak yesterday. But it requires cell phone tower equipment to be closer to users than ever before. And that is causing outrage and alarm in some neighborhoods as antennas go up around the homes.
Wireless companies in the U.S. say they'll have to install about 300,000 new antennas for the rollout of 5G. That is roughly equal to the total number of cell phone towers built over the past 3 decades. The faster network could create new potential for work and play, but it's also leading to new concerns.
Go. At a lab in New York, Verizon invited us to meet some of the entrepreneurs developing tools to run on the next generation of wireless technology.
How important is 5G to your mission?
5G is extremely important.
Jonathan Reeves demonstrated his product, Arvizio.
As you move around, the object stays fixed in space.
Look at that. That's amazing.
Allowing users in different locations to interact with 3D images projected through a lens.
Today we can do this using Wi-Fi technology, and we can do it using landline technology. But of course, you're then tied to particular locations. With 5G now, we can begin to extend this, so we can actually begin to start doing this on building sites. We can start doing it on the factory floor. So it really opens up a whole new world.
But before this world can become reality, this one needs to change. 5G requires the installation of new equipment across the U.S.
So this pole here is 5G. This is the future right here.
You got it.
Every wireless company is working to build its own 5G network. Melissa Arnoldi leads AT&T's efforts.
If you don't already have one of these in your neighborhood, they're coming.
That's absolutely right. They're coming.
She says 5G uses high-frequency waves that support faster speeds, but don't travel as far as current wireless frequencies. So instead of relying on large cell phone towers spread far apart, they need small cell sites that are much closer together.
We're going to use our existing infrastructure today, whether it's light poles, whether it's street lights. We're going to make sure that we don't make it obtrusive to our customers and to the citizens.
Yet some don't share the enthusiasm.
The cell towers are called small cell towers, but they're not so small when they're in your front yard.
Donna Barron is protesting plans to convert light poles in her Montgomery County, Maryland neighborhood into small cell sites.
This will cause cancer.
She was one of several people who raised health concerns at a government hearing last month.
This stuff is untested on kids. Their safety is not certain. These untested technologies are, at this time, not ready to be unleashed into our lives.
You lose this fight and a pole goes in right here. Are you going to move?
Possibly.
Either way, Barron says she fears property values could plummet when 5G equipment pops up.
If a tower goes up right there, what's going to happen to the value of that home?
It could drop 20%.
And not only for this house.
Right, for that house, that house, that house. And then pretty soon you go around the curve and there's another cell tower. They're all through this neighborhood. So it's going to devastate the neighborhood.
You're being exposed to radiation right now. It's coming at you from both space and the soil, from water and food. Your body itself is radioactive, and you're being exposed to microwaves and radio waves, both natural and human-made. Wi-Fi, TV, radio stations, cell phones, 3G, 4G, and now 5G. And 5G is just getting started. Qualcomm, Samsung, Verizon, LG, Sprint, all these companies and more are right now working to build out the 5G ecosystem. So the question is, what are all these things doing to you?
The connection between your cell phone and your cancer risk.
It's being absorbed by your head.
More than 99% confident that there is no such effect.
Brain cancer warning labels on cell phones.
The least concerned about 5G.
People like Joel Moskowitz are concerned and see cell phones as a massive risk factor to public health.
We have no assurance that 5G is safe. For that matter, that 4G is safe. I've only found 3 studies on 4G. They came out of China, and they all indicated changes in brain function.
And Moskowitz isn't alone. Camilla Reese has spent the last 12 years of her life trying to educate the public on what she sees as a risk greater than climate change.
I've been really amazed at the resistance to learning the truth, the spin that the industry puts out, learning that the exposure guidelines that the FCC uses are totally not protective. Really, I would call them fraudulent.
Radiation is just a form of energy, but it comes in different strengths. You've got low energy radio waves on one end of the spectrum and super high energy gamma rays on the other. Even visible light is radiation. And understanding the effects of radiation at different energy levels is key when thinking about risk. The wavelengths of radiation, like the distance between crests of ocean waves, can differ. It's these differing wavelengths that define how high energy the radiation is. The shorter the length between crests, the higher the energy. Another way to describe radiation is by using hertz, a unit of frequency which tells you how many crests in that wave are happening per second. So, for example, 3G and 4G radiation is around 1 to 2 billion hertz, or 1 to 2 gigahertz. 5G moves up in the spectrum, using frequencies from 1 gigahertz all the way up to 70 gigahertz. And if you were exposed to enough of any of these frequencies, it would affect your body by heating it. That's how a microwave oven works, and why there are limits on how powerful cell phone radiation can be, at which radiation has enough energy to do more than that, and actually makes changes to the atoms in your body. If it reaches that point, it becomes ionizing, which means it has enough energy to knock electrons out of atoms and do things like give you cancer and damage your DNA.
Is a cell tower going up in your neighborhood? If it's not now, it may soon. Wireless carriers are installing millions of them across the country to enable the new, faster 5G cell phone technology. But tonight, Julie Watts asked the question you're not supposed to ask.
It's keeping John Heestand up at night. This new pole outside his bedroom window where Verizon will soon install a next-generation cell tower, just feet from a school.
This would be a big tower pushing out radiation outside of our bedroom window, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for many years.
It's called a small cell or distributed antenna system, similar to this one in San Francisco. The industry says they're safe. Many in Piedmont aren't convinced.
Our daughter is a cancer survivor.
13-year-old Sophia has been one of many petitioning the city council to deny this cell tower and others.
I'm also a brain cancer survivor, and I am against the cell towers. I mostly talked about my cancer and how it affected me.
But according to federal law, the city simply can't consider health concerns. It's outlined in this small section of the Telecommunications Act, based on science from 1996.
To turn your phone on or off.
Back when this was the height of technology. But if cities do consider health, the cell companies can sue. So with few legal arguments to deny a cell tower, they're popping up outside bedroom windows and school campuses, despite objections from across the country.
5G can be a tremendous boom to California,
but only if it can be put up quickly and easily.
Hayward Assemblymember Bill Quirk co-authored legislation that would make it even harder for cities like Piedmont to object to a tower.
You wouldn't have to go through the Planning Commission, through the City Council.
The former NASA scientist says he may resurrect the bill recently vetoed by the governor.
I know scientifically that putting up these cell phone towers is safe.
But the International Association of Firefighters disagrees. They began opposing cell towers on fire stations after firefighters complained of health problems.
These firefighters developed symptoms.
Dr. Gunnar Heuser conducted a pilot study on firefighters at a station with cell towers.
And the symptoms included problem with memory, problem with intermittent confusion, problem with weakness.
Heuser says their brain scans suggest even low-level RF can cause cell damage, and he worries about more vulnerable groups like kids.
So we found abnormal brain function in all of the firefighters we examined.
So, following lobbying by firefighters, Quirk and his co-author exempted fire stations from their bill, making them one place cell companies couldn't put a tower. This is the first piece of legislation that I think anyone's aware of where somebody got an exemption because they were concerned about health. Did they tell you at all about the study?
All I know is that when the firefighters ask, I do what they ask me to do.
Because they're strong lobbyists?
Yes.
So if, say, school teachers and parents had a strong lobby and they asked you to pass something that would prevent these from going up in your schools, would you do that?
If I couldn't get the votes any other way.
Firefighter and cancer survivor Tony Stefani notes,
it's not only firefighters, it's the people that live in the general vicinity of these towers.
Current regulations don't take into account continuous low-level exposure from these small cells 24 hours a day.
More of these studies have to be done.
There are 230 scientists from 41 countries who have apparently reviewed more than 2,000 peer-reviewed studies, and they're calling on the World Health Organization to do more studies. They're not convinced that this is safe.
I think doing more studies is always a good thing.
In a statement, the wireless industry says it defers to experts when it comes to cell tower safety and says, according to government agencies, the scientific evidence shows no known health risk. But what about the unknown? Well, back in Piedmont, the he stands don't want to wait around to find out.
We're going to get some meters and we're going to measure the microwave radiation today, and then when the cell towers go up, we can measure it and see how dangerous it really is.
And he says if he has to, they'll move.
For my daughter's health, definitely.
Well, Julie reports Piedmont did block some cell towers and is now being sued.